Now I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker today. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Ragu Bhargava, the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Global Upside. Very proud to say that he graduated from the University of Alaska in 1988 and started his entrepreneurial journey right here in Anchorage. Alaska's uniqueness and grit are characteristics very much synonymous with our speaker. He came to the United States with, I guess, just $5 in his pocket, and it's been a remarkable journey since. From working at local stores to becoming a CFO of a publicly traded company to eventually founding Global Upside alongside his wife, Geeta. The duo are trailblazers who have gone on to found more companies. They've won awards, and they recently also filed for a technology patent. The company that started, as so many startups do, started on a kitchen table, is today supporting businesses in 100+ countries, and is the provider of choice for brands like Zillow, Uber, Cisco, and many other internationally recognized companies. Ragu is also a philanthropist and actively works toward making education accessible to underprivileged children. He was recently awarded the Pride of India Award for his entrepreneurship and philanthropic work. Ragu's mantra is, "Impossible is not in my vocabulary." And I look forward to hearing from him today about what it takes to make the impossible possible. Please join me in welcoming back to Anchorage, Ragu, to this forum.
So just like everybody else, I have some cheat sheets, guys, here. Hopefully I don't have to read too much. But thank you, Greg. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And thank you, Bobby, for making this possible, because without her connection to UAA about 6-7 months ago, I wouldn't be here. And before I go into sort of my life story and how I got to where I am, I have to thank my wife, Geeta. She's sitting here in the audience, and without this, I don't think I would have been what I am today. And I think there's plenty of people in the audience that know me more than, just because I'm here today. Some of you from my childhood, like my sister here. Some of you because of marriage to my sister. Some of you because you married me. And I think there's plenty of people here that know me because of my brother, Raj. Just a show of hands, how many know Raj? Okay, a great majority. A lot of people here know him. I lived here for 10 years too, guys. I went to UAA and then moved on, took a transfer and stuff. But my journey, even though it begins in India, in a very small town, and turns out to be quite an entrepreneur when I look back at my life. But that's not where it started. That's not how it all happened. And in fact, I want to talk about my life in like 4 different, I want to relate it to 4 different stories. And some of these you guys will connect with for various reasons, and others may be a little strange. But I'm one of those guys that I was born with a silver spoon from a fairly rich family in India. In fact, I always cite this example. I started driving when I was 10 years old. And imagine driving 10 years old, everybody can tell you're underage, but no policeman, no cop could dare stop me because he was worried about losing his job. That is the clout my father had, my family had in my hometown. So for me, I had everything. And my first story is about that, where you have everything, then you give up everything and move to a foreign country, a foreign land, and like Greg pointed out, $5 in my pocket. I don't think I have very much more money today, but I end up here, and people still ask me, why Alaska? Why did you go there? And I just say, hey, I was stupid, what can I say? Obviously coming from the largest state in India, Rajasthan, to Alaska, which is the largest state in this union, and coming from one valley to another valley here, and it's just wasn't something I ever prepared for. It wasn't something that I was said, oh, you know what, I'm going to give up everything and go start over again. But that is, once I came here, and I wanted to come here because I wanted to be with my brother and be with the family, but, excuse me. But one thing that I did not coin till very late in my life was failure is not an option. And so you come to a foreign country, and I didn't have an education that was valued properly in this country. I have degrees from India, but nobody here cared about that. I went to school. I started school on day 7 of being in this country. You know, had to build all over again. But it wasn't like, hey, let's take the easy road and let's make, you know, whatever happens, happens, which is the way I had lived all my life to that point. And I came here and it was like about success, about winning, about making something out of our life. And eventually, today, what is very important for me is to contribute to the society I live in. And I'll talk about that a little later. And the thing about failure that I mentioned earlier is not so much about failure where, and I know in this day and age, a lot of quotes are contributed to a lot of people, famous people, so I don't know who originally said this, but one of the things I learned very early on in my life was the harder I work, the luckier I get. Obviously, luck has very little to do with it. We're all trying to make a living, and some of us in a very smart way, and some of us not in a very smart way, but no matter what you do, if you become good at it, you will succeed. And society, the people you know, the people that are around you are going to rally behind you because they see somebody who's smart, who works hard, and cares about everybody around them. That's who I became once I came to the US. And that actually then leads me into the second story about my life, which is about setbacks. Because I'm not sure how many people in the room can raise their hand and say, hey, we only had a ride up with no downturns ever. And most of us have had downturns. Some may be drastic, major events, some might be minor events, but there's always hiccups in our lives. And as you've heard, I was the CFO of a public company and stuff, so life was great for me for a very long time. And then I had co-founded Global Upside with Geeta, and she asked me to come join her at a time when we lost a very significant client of ours. Now imagine losing a significant client for a professional services company. It can actually kill you. And so taking over the reins of a company where you're facing that is a huge gamble, a huge challenge. And it is a big setback. But the setbacks, and people can do two things when they have a setback. Some of us go into depression or something like that, and you know, we shut down, we go home and we sleep all day trying to recover from it. And others see that challenge, the setback as a challenge to say, how do we change what happened to us last time? And how do we make the next outcome very, very different? Because from time to time, all professional services companies have had very large clients. How do you mitigate your risk of losing a large client and causing a near-death event? So I reinvented Global Upside. We became a very different company. When I got to Global Upside, we were really providing services to only one set of clients, which were essentially US-based companies. And so our model was, hey, we could go into large companies, show them the benefits of outsourcing, show them what we could do for them, financially speaking, quality-wise, and win that business. Obviously, the world was changing back in 2008 when I got to Global Upside, my re-entry. And today, we went from essentially 0 countries, or 1 country of US, to today we have a footprint of over 100 countries. So name a corner of the planet that you need service in, and I can help you. We can help you. And today I have a network of over 15,000 people I can call. In fact, a lot of times when I talk to some new prospect or sometimes with an old friend, I'll have a little competition. I say, hey, look, let me open my phone and name a country. Let me punch in it to my Outlook, my database of contacts, and let's see if somebody shows up. Recently, I was stumped. Somebody mentioned Kazakhstan. And I was very certain that if I type Kazakhstan into my phone, at least one contact would show up, but none did. What can you do? It is what it is. I went back and I said, how is that possible? And I realized that I was spelling Kazakhstan wrong. And I don't know, I don't think I could spell Kazakhstan correctly today. So it's one of those challenges that you face. And I just blame English as my second language, okay? But you have to seize and learn from your setbacks so that you can reinvent yourself and say, how do we avoid this? How do we change it? What is our model that does not allow us to some bad thing to happen to us? And for the longest time, I used to track what percentage, what number of clients made up 50% of our revenue. And from time to time, we've had quarters where one client may make up a lot of our revenue, but I tell you that number is growing so rapidly for us that now I don't worry about, oh, and again, trust me, I do care about losing any and every client, but it's not like a loss of a client can actually impact our continuity, okay? And that is the risk you have to face and address. And so, and how do you get to knowing 15,000 people across the planet? I mean, it's a big world. I mean, we're in one corner, and yesterday when we flew in, my daughter, who's also our PR person, my PR person, I should say, flew in from Boston, which is where she mans our Boston office. She flew for 12 hours to get here. So, and that's just cross country. I mean, we have clients in Argentina, Chile, which is the other end of the whole two continents, North and South America. We have clients in Japan. Well, Japan is closer to here, so I guess it takes less time. But think about Australia. Think about Ukraine or Moscow, Russia. So how do you do this? And what I did was when I started back at Global Upside, when I came to Global Upside, I developed a regimen of 3 meetings a day. My take was if I meet somebody for about 10 o'clock-ish in the morning for lunch, and then sometime in 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that would allow me enough time to prepare for my meetings and do justice with whoever I was meeting. But that also allowed me to have a regimen to say, look, we are in a very bad state right now. We're having a near-death experience. How do we come out of it? And being a people person, it maintained my sanity that I was out there talking to people. And when you talk to people, what you have to do is, to win, my take is you have to show them that you do care about them. It is not just about me. Because obviously, I'm a CEO. I am trying to get our revenue higher every single day, every single minute. Anybody wants to sign up with us? I'm ready. Let's talk right after I'm done here. But that is not the point of life. The point is you have to show people that you care about them. If you care about them, they relate to you. If they relate to you, when they have a challenge, when they have a need, they will call you. Because does anybody in this room have a life that is going smoothly? I'm sure a lot of us. But a lot of us are facing challenges. And there are certain of your challenges that we can solve. But why would you call me? And so I was never a salesperson. Even today, I'm not a salesperson. I'm an evangelist, is what I call myself. I'm trying to tell people. In fact, I had a discussion with one of you right before lunch started, and their point was world domination, and my take was no. I'm not trying to be. If I dominate the world, who is it all about? Just me, and only me. But if I make the world a better place to live, it is about all of us. And most of us don't think in those terms because most of us are so focused on our own success. But the success of everybody is much more important, and that is evangelism, in my mind. I'm not trying to preach anybody religion, obviously, but that's how you get ahead. And if you show them, they will come to you. And persistence. I actually have a great side story here on persistence. I was introduced to one of our clients, now I want to say about seven years ago or something like that. And I was introduced by email, and one of my principles was I would not pick up the phone and call somebody if they were just exchanging emails with me. So I would send them an email, and they would respond, yes, would love to talk to you. Can we set up a time a month out? Okay, sure. We set up a time month out. 2-3 days before that, sends me an email. His name is Tom. Tom sends me an email back saying, hey, it's a really bad time. Can we push it out 2 weeks? And this happened for about 3 months. I never gave up. Persistence, I never gave up. So finally, one day Tom actually shames himself. I shame him into accepting or showing up for the meeting. And he asked me, he said, do you know why you're sitting here talking to me today? I said, I think you have a need and I think I have a solution for it. He said, no. The reason is you never gave up. And this is about failure is not an option. This is about, working hard to win. Because if you give up, whatever you're working on, tell me how will you succeed. And I've heard people today, I was at the UAA campus today and I met some of the professors and stuff, and one of them was talking about his passion of writing. How do you get to become an author? How do you write a book that is, I don't know how thick books he has written, but let's just call it a 50-page book. Because you can give up on page 2 or page 15, okay? You get to that point because you persevere. You commit to it, you make it happen. And that's how you become an author who's written 10 books, okay? There you go. And some of these have been translated into foreign languages. How do you get to that status? Not because you gave up on page 5. Now, my third story is about what I call attitude. Now, obviously, we talked about hard work, we talked about other things, but eventually, attitude matters a lot in your dealings with everybody. So like when I was talking to the professors this morning, I don't know how I can help them, but one of them said, hey, can you take one of our students, graduates, and maybe give them an internship to learn about what you do and how you do it? I said, absolutely. We don't have a program for it, but we'll figure it out. And what does figure it out mean? It's an attitude issue. We all haven't done everything that we're going to do tomorrow morning forever. Bobby, you've been driving me around all morning. Someday, it was the first day of your driving, correct? Your dad or some instructor took you out in a car and said, okay, sit behind the wheel and learn. You can't just give it up. And we all know learning how to drive is important because that's how you get around. That's, we don't have the autonomous cars and self-driving cars yet, but that's how you survive. And at Global Upside, what we do is, what are the kind of people that say yes all the time? In fact, we don't even say yes as much as we sit at a conference room table with our hand up, literally our hand up. So any problem that comes up with our clients, our hand is up. And keeping the hand up transformed us over the last 1 year to go from being just a professional services company to what you heard in Greg's introduction of filing a patent. I mean, a patent is only filed by a technology company, correct? You guys are all in that business over here, maybe more others in the audience, but how does an accountant become a patent holder? Because what happened is our client asked us that, look, we have this challenge, we need the software to manage this aspect of our business. Can you do some research for us and tell us what our options are? We went out, we did a study for them, and we found out, and has anybody heard of a company called Kronos? Okay, there you go. At least some of you have, correct? If you know Kronos, you know that they are the 800-pound gorilla, they are the Cadillac of the business and stuff. And absolutely a great solution, great tool for whoever needs that service. Our client needed similar service, not exactly that, but they didn't have 9 months to implement it. They didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to implement it. They actually needed something that would be up and running in about 8 weeks. So this is in August, we were having this conversation when we were hired to do this analysis. So what we did was we did a PowerPoint and we presented it to the client. It had 4 options on it. Kronos was number 1. There was 2 other companies listed on it, and number 4 was Global Upside. So before the meeting, we obviously sent the PowerPoint over to the client saying, hey, here's what we're going to talk about. And what this, excuse me, their first question is, are you kidding? You're a professional services company. Why do you have Global Upside here? You're not a technology player. We said, absolutely, you're correct. But we think we can become a technology player if you say yes. Their second question is, how many clients do you have on this? And our sales team just basically said, we're not going to sell this because we don't believe we can do this. I said, okay, let me get on the phone. So I was on that call too. So the question they asked is, how many clients do you have? I said, none. We've already told you we'll build it. And the next question, which at least according to me was a little bit not too smart, which is, do you have any references? Well, the product doesn't even exist. It's on a PowerPoint. How can we have a referenceable client? So then, long story short, they went back. They came back about 3 days later and said, okay, go ahead and build it. So to speak, the rest is history. Today we have about 20. We actually built that product in 6 weeks. They gave us a yes around September 1st. They needed the product live on October 31st. But to be live on October 31st, they needed they needed the product working by October 15th so they could upload data, make it working in a usable condition and stuff. So we didn't even do an alpha, beta, the traditional launch cycles and stuff, but we straight went into production on October 15th in 6 weeks. And that is only one reason, because we kept our hand up. And we said, yes, we can solve your problem. All of us have the ability to do something extraordinary, whether it's for our client, for our family, for ourselves personally. I have friends that have lost limbs in sporting accidents that are back doing the same thing that they lost a limb in. In the Paralympics, if you see those, you see a lot of people that are doing, marvelous things. I'm not a runner. I could not compete with them, even though I'm fully capable of doing it. But I diverted my energy elsewhere, and you can become something and do something extraordinary. And that's attitude. Again, attitude goes back to not giving up and doing what you set your mind to do, helping the society around you succeed. If I can impact your life and you can impact somebody else's life, that is what I'm talking about. My fourth story is more about me personally, a little bit more me personally, and what we're trying to do at Global Upside. So in this environment, and being an entrepreneur, we all think about, hey, how can I get something built, launched, capitalize on the market acceptance of it, sell it to the highest bidder, and then move on to my next opportunity. Now in the last 1 year, we have launched a couple other businesses. We're launching another one come January and stuff, or we'll announce it in January. Things are in work right now. We're working on some other technology products and stuff like that, which is all great. And it's not about being a serial entrepreneur. It's about building and maintaining what you want to do. And so my vision of Global Upside is we're trying to build a 100-year company. Now, I don't know about you, but most probably I'm not going to be around in 100 years. And so why a 100-year company? Because you're trying to build something that stands the test of time. Because as we all know, just like the economy, just like a lot of things in life, things go up and down. And if you build a company with a long-term vision, what it does, it allows you to stand that test of time, test of those ups and downs. because we know we will face that. We at Global Upside, me personally as an individual, have faced many ups and downs. We're still standing here after 20 years, or after 50 years if you talk about my life. How? Why? Because we weren't built to just stand that test of time for 3 days. Obviously, we can think about certain animals that have a very, very short lifespan. But that is their lifespan. Our lifespan, our product's lifespan can be much longer. And part of that 100-year company vision is what I talked about early on, is giving back to the society. Our focus is on education. So today, when I met with professors in the morning, when I'm going to meet other people at UAA this afternoon, some students, some faculty, and others, my take is how can I contribute to the success? Because education, in my mind, and sure, this is very biased view of the world coming from India, where education is very, very important for everybody. My take is education can make a big difference in the society come tomorrow. Because if you have education, you have lower crime rates. If you have education, people can make a decent living, whatever decent is, depending on whichever geography you live in, whatever your desires are to succeed. But it would get rid of war, it would get rid of poverty, it would get rid of a lot of problems that we face as a society today. And so we're very committed to the education objective, and I am on the board of an organization called City Year. I'm on the Silicon Valley, San Jose chapter of that. Geeta is very involved with that organization, and she works on a lot of their events, the women's events that they do, to support that fundraising cause and stuff. Also, my oldest one is on the associate board of the Silicon Valley chapter, and she's the founding member of it. Again, for us, it's a family affair. Why? Because all three of my kids, we taught them that education was important. They went to college. They're all graduated from college now. They all have very good jobs, very well-paying jobs and stuff. Why? Only because of education. And you guys all recognize that in this room. This is why UAA sponsored this event. This is why they invited me. Because if I hadn't gone to college, maybe I can be a success still. And we have heard of people like Bill Gates, like Mark Zuckerberg, that have made a very good name for themselves without completing college. But they had an idea that most of us will never have. In fact, how many Facebooks are around? There's only one. There's only one Microsoft, correct? In fact, who's the richest person on the planet today? Yes, exactly. I was in India just about a month ago, and a lot of people raised the name of Bill Gates. He's no longer the richest man. In fact, maybe some of you also know this because you know about Jeff. On Black Friday, his net worth went up by $2.4 billion. Absolutely, absolutely, correct? Wouldn't we love 10% of that to accrue to each one of us? And that's a number that most of us cannot even fathom. Most of us will never be worth $2.4 billion, even though we may dream of it or hope for. Now, as I was, and I know I hadn't talked to Jeff about this, but Jeff did communicate this to us as I was preparing to come up here and talk to you guys, is this concept of Silicon Tundra. How can you transform a region like Alaska, where mining or natural resources, tourism, these are the biggest orders of business here. And Silicon Tundra is obviously, if you think about technology, it may require production facilities, manufacturing. Here is a great product for technology, correct? It has to be manufactured someplace. But a lot of technology, for example, our technological products don't require any manufacturing. It just requires coding. If somebody can sit someplace and code, you don't need manufacturing facilities. And yes, we have somebody here who runs a manufacturing facility, but I'm not sure how much manufacturing is done say in Anchorage. Not very much, correct? So that hasn't changed in the 20 plus years that I've not been here. But you know that, and yes, in a manner of speaking, we're producing timber or oil or things like that, but that's not kind of what we're thinking of manufacturing. And one of the things that I did was I mean, there's a lot of things that is required to make some place extremely successful, because people that are technological experts or people that are launching technology companies, and you can pick whatever big names you want to pick. I think 3 names of our clients were mentioned: Zillow, Uber, and Cisco. They're all technology companies, some with a hard product, some with no product at all, like a Zillow or an Uber. What is required for these technology companies to succeed is talent. Well, yes, there is always a shortage of talent no matter where you are. But what you have, what Anchorage at least has going for it, and I think Anchorage and Fairbanks are the two major centers that have this going for them, is the availability of a established university. And UAA is a great institution where a lot of local people have gone to for education and stuff. And how many of you here are UAA graduates? Or, well, a fair number, some sitting on the table on both sides of me and some in the audience. So look, we're producing very talented people here. Now, maybe the focus has been on accountants in my case, but that focus can change, and that is something that the university can contribute to very easily. And I know they have an engineering program, so it's not like there's a shortage of that or it's missing. But talent is one key factor to make a place, so to speak, a silicon, whatever other word you want to attach to it. I think the other thing is timing and opportunity. So from a timing and opportunity, obviously there are changes happening on this planet, like climate change. Whether you believe it or not, obviously there are certain things happening, maybe good, maybe bad. Now, 50 years from today, Alaska may not be this cold. Maybe it'll be colder. I don't know the answer. But maybe we can have some engineer who graduated from UAA come up with an idea how to capitalize on what happens in the next 50 years, whether it's warming of the state or cooling down. And maybe instead of silicon tundra, I'm not sure what the other word would be, but Silicon Beach or something like that. But it's timing and opportunity. So there is always an opportunity to come with a better mousetrap. That's what we did when we launched Mihi a year ago, right? I mean, yes, it was staring in our face and we could see it, but that's what happens to people like Mark and Bill and Jeff. They see something staring at them where you and I don't. I mean, it is not very complicated what Amazon does. How many of us have done it? Well, eBay tried it, and today at least my feeling is that Amazon kicks their butt. They may not like it, but that's what is happening. We don't talk about eBay in events, we talk about Amazon. And so somebody here, or some engineer, or maybe not even an engineer, some other business owner or some entrepreneur is looking at some problem and saying, man, I know how to fix that one. So there's always an opportunity to do that. And it's just a matter of then capitalizing on it. And you know, there's a spin-off, right? So we have say a timber industry in this state. I don't know what the dollars are, but I'm sure there's a fair bit of dollars are attached to the timber industry, most probably starting with a B. And can we come up with a better way to harvest timber or transport it or put it on a ship so that it can be exported to, I guess, China or lower 48 or whatever the place where it gets processed? Or maybe we can bring a factory, a timber processing factory to our shore, process it here, and then ship out the product. And silicon tundra doesn't necessarily have to be about the next technological or a software type answer. It has to be about how do you make the next best mousetrap, whatever that means, whatever that translates into from a different industry perspective. And why was your firm founded, correct? Because you saw there was a need for the particular climate, for the particular environment that a behemoth like BP was trying to crack. Okay? I mean, does BP has any shortage? If BP puts out an RFP, how many people would line up outside their door? Everybody would, correct? But somebody here capitalized on that and made it a success. And so that's how you have to think about innovation. Now, there's obviously as I was trying to prepare for this, I did some research and I found an article on Sweden. So Sweden is, do you know what the population of Sweden is? Anybody? It's about 20 times, nice try. Yeah, nice try. I came prepared with that answer. What's the population of Alaska? Okay, so it's a little bit less, but when I left Alaska, the population was about 500,000. The population of Sweden is about 10 million. So it's about 20x, well now maybe 15x of Alaska. So it's a very small country. But if you put Sweden on a map and Alaska, you would see there's a lot of similarities, correct, in terms of geography and stuff and things. And I've been to both places, by the way. I've lived here and I've been to Sweden. And it is also a very beautiful place. So some of the challenges that the planet was facing in the 1990s around recession and stuff, Sweden was facing this too. Now they were able to capitalize and do certain things that Alaska does not have the means to do. For example, they reduced their income tax rate from 52% to 22%. What's the tax rate in Alaska? You can't reduce it anymore, correct? It's already zero. Now you can give companies money to do things, and I don't believe in charity. I'm a capitalist at heart. For me, let's just go make it happen and let's make money. So that 0% is not a lever that exists in this state. But there are other levers that does exist in the state that Sweden used, that a state like Alaska can use. And some of this is legislation. So for example, Sweden legislated that mega companies couldn't do a merger and become bigger. So what's the latest? CVS buying Aetna for $69 billion. Well, it doesn't matter how much money they're paying for it. I mean, that just consolidation stifles competition. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just saying that's what happens. And so for some small company or some guy in a garage to come with the next new idea to go against CVS or against Aetna may never succeed, because now people are so entrenched with this giant that they can't really engage with some small startup. But they legislated against it. They said mega companies cannot merge and and become bigger. What that did is it started to open up opportunities for new companies. What they also did was they reduced legislation required to launch companies and stuff and things, and how to separate company with an individual. Because in Sweden, the law was that if I was the owner of Global Upside, then whatever the income of Global Upside, I had to pay tax on it, even though Global Upside had paid tax on it. And so there was complications and stuff. And it's a socialist country, guys. Remember, it's a high tax rate country because a lot of that benefit is provided by the state, like health benefits, things like that. And what they did was they changed the environment. And they also changed other legislation where they said the government doesn't need to be in every business. This is the cornerstone of capitalism, correct? Let individuals, let entrepreneurs own everything. Let them come up with the best way to solve this problem and let them do it. And they did some things that today, Sweden, after US, Sweden is the #2 country for new enterprises. I mean, can you believe it? There are only 10 million people there. Only 10 million. We have 300 some million people in this country. And we're only #1 because we have Silicon Valley. Not because, Florida is doing a lot of innovation or entrepreneurship. I'm sure there are people there, but it's Sweden, #2. And I don't know if you guys have heard of this company called Tune that moved from Seattle to right outside of Valdez. There are 10 miles outside of Valdez, That company is run from tents. So Google the word geeks in the woods and you will find their article. It's an interesting read. And they're the two founders that established this company in Seattle, moved here, and they're young, very young couple, two guys that did this. And it's an interesting story to read. So you can make things happen because you believe in something. 10 miles or so Valdez, I mean, there's no ISP there. There's nobody to provide them internet connection. And you can't really run a technology company without having access to the internet. I mean, that's one of the cornerstones of it. And one of the things with the internet that anybody on this planet can capitalize on is access to labor, access to talent. Because today, and coming from the Silicon Valley where an engineer costs about $150,000 a year, you can go to Poland and an engineer costs, and these are fully loaded costs, and for a junior level person. I'm not talking about a senior engineer, I'm talking about a junior level engineer. You can go to Poland and hire the same talent for about $25,000, 1/6 of the price. How many of us know where Poland is? Most of us don't. We don't know how to get there. We don't know what to do there when we. How many speak Polish? Maybe that's the better answer question to ask. Okay? So how do you make it happen? With this, in this day and age of internet, it's not that hard. It's really not that hard. I'm sorry?
Buy a map from us.
There you go. There you go. In fact, talking about your technology, this morning I woke up, and I am one of those guys that wakes up very, very early. I wake up at 4 o'clock 7 days a week. I had an email from Google, and I'm not going to go tell you all the details, but they basically sent me an email saying, this year, which is 2017, you have traveled to these many countries, these many cities, you've been to these many places. I'm like, really? But that's the connected world we live in. Forget privacy, guys. All this privacy business is bullshit in my mind. Because if Google can send me that email, and I'm not like a user. Obviously, I use the search engine, all that stuff. But none of our services are provided. Global Upside services are provided based on a Google backbone. Okay, all of our services are through other people. Now I fly United a lot, and last year, or in January, they sent me an email saying, okay, here's the top destinations you went to, here's the miles you flew and stuff. I understand that. Okay, I'm a subscriber to United. They can track everything. How many flights did I cancel? How much money I've spent with them? And just in case you're wondering, this year I've already traveled 350,000 miles with just United. So somebody's tracking everything, correct? Thanks to people like you, others, stuff. I have no problems. I have no problems till it doesn't get in the wrong hands. And we've heard about all those stories too. But the point I was trying to make really is that the internet allows you to find the talent anywhere on this planet. And there are platforms that allow you to find that talent without having to go to Poland, without having to figure out how do I get from Anchorage to pick a town in Poland. I don't know which towns there are that has the right talent, but there's a lot of universities in Poland, and this is the Russian regime you're talking about, correct? Russians believe in education a lot. For them, math is extremely important. That's why a lot of hacking happens because of Russia, because they know how to build it, they know how to crack it. This is a compliment to them. This is not a complaint about them, okay? They have that talent. So it should not stop somebody in this room, in this state, to say, I have an idea, but I don't have the access to talent. You do. Call me, I will tell you how to find that talent if you don't know how to. And you know, the other thing is just the opportunity as to how a success or failure is looked at. And in a country like Germany, failures are very looked down upon. And I was on a panel one time similar to this, and one of my co-panelists was talking about, he was German, he started a company there, and he wanted some money to expand his operations, hire more people, do the right things. He went to the bank and said, hey, I need a loan, and they start asking him, so tell me about yourself, tell me about your family, tell me about your parents. And he's like, oh, my dad is retired, he lives way over there, he's got a nice house, and it's worth €500,000 or whatever it was. And so the banker says, why don't you ask your father to just take a loan and fund you? But I came to you for a loan. Now that's cultural difference, correct? In the Silicon Valley, there's many entrepreneurs that have failed one after the other company, and they still get funding. Because we understand not every idea is going to be a success. And yes, sometimes it's my money at stake, and sometimes it's an investor's money at stake. But you have to have that culture. And culture is very hard to change, whether it's locally, globally. I mean, we all come with biases to the table every single day that we are around. And some of it, we get educated and we learn that changing that bias is the right answer. Some of it, the answer is no. Even though we may see the benefit, we won't change it. Which is why, as an example, women are underpaid everywhere. That's not a surprise to anybody, correct? I'm not giving you any brand new news. Why? Because we're still biased. And we can change it. And some companies do, others don't. So that culture of failing once, twice, 5 times, and then still being able to fund or get an investor to invest in you, that's a hard one to crack. But as you see companies developing here and succeeding, that culture, whatever that culture happens to be in Alaska today, will change over time. Because people will say, yes, there is talent in Anchorage. Yes, there is talent that does the right things in spite of many failures, which is the culture of Silicon Valley. And I think you guys all hopefully got a message of optimism. This wasn't a demoralizing speech. I'm not asking anybody to go home and get depressed because you had a setback or something. Learn from it, get to the next level, and push yourself to make it happen. That's the story of my life, and that's the story I tell everybody. So I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg for Q&A. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ragu. Thank you also to Lynn and Jeff and Brandon. Thank you to our head table. Thank all of you for being here today.